Hello folks, Tiso here. This Eula guide will be covering her flexible combo routes, including the one that gives her 14 stacks for her burst, which weapons are good for her, artifact sets, and strong team comps. Her attacks are quite elegant and fluid. Each swing blends smoothly with the next like a dancing blade master. Even though there are some people complaining about the transition between the first swing and the second swing. Currently, her burst is the highest single hit in the game, and I don't think that will be changing anytime soon. Just make sure the enemy won't teleport away or become invincible 7 seconds after casting it so you don't waste that hit. Another caveat for having such a strong ultimate is performing a proper rotation during the 7-second window. So let's begin with talking about the attacks and abilities that will be part of her rotation. The majority of the damage stacks will come from her normal attacks. Her charged attacks have too long of a windup to be optimal. Instead, we will be using 4 different normal attack chains. Those are N2, N3, N4, and N5. The letter N means normal attack and the number represents the number of clicks or button presses in that chain. Both N3 and N5 hits twice, which is great for building stacks. But there is a long delay between N4 and N5. The delay is so long that you can't effectively do N5 twice during the 7-second window. Oh, here's a nice little touch MiHoYo added after Eula's N4. She blushes during that pose. She also kicks her sword after the N3 string. Anyways, during her normal combat when her burst isn't ready, her N3 dash and N4 dash does a lot of damage. Use these two combos often while you mix in her elemental skill. Speaking of her elemental skill, it has 2 versions similar to Razor. You can tap it for a quick cryo hit with a 4-second cooldown. You also get 1 stack of Grimheart, which is a unique buff on Eula that increases her defense and reduces the chance of interrupts and knockback. You can stack Grimheart 2 times. There are a couple visual indicators that show you the number of Grimheart stacks. The obvious one is the swords above her head. There is a single sword for 1 stack, and they make an X shape when you have 2 stacks. The other indicator is her cape. It becomes a lighter color at 1 stack and glows a lot more at 2. Though it can be hard to tell the difference between the 1 and 2 stacks with a quick glance. When you hold the elemental skill, she will consume all Grimheart stacks and do extra cryo hits. 1 extra hit per stack. You will also reduce the enemy's cryo resistance and physical resistance, and you get an extra physical hit with her Ascension 2 passive. In total, holding E at 2 stacks of Grimheart will do 4 hits in a very small amount of time, which is very important to stacking her burst. Now for her elemental burst, the strongest single attack from a playable character. Mr. Leviathan, Tony Toe, was able to deal 4.3 million damage with his setup. Yes, that situation is not practical, but it was still very impressive to see damage numbers go that high. Anyways, once you cast Eula's burst, you have 7 seconds to land as many hits as you can from her attacks and abilities. Passive hits from her weapon does not add to the number of stacks. Only Eula's personal arsenal works. And that's where the optimal combo comes in play. Currently, the max number of stacks you can reach on a single target without any attack speed buff is 14. The combo to get 14 stacks is kinda strict, but is also very easy to perform. And that combo is tapping E, then using her burst, followed by 4 normal attacks, then hold the elemental skill, and finally another 4 normal attacks. The reason you have to E before using her burst is to get 1 stack of Grimheart. With her Ascension 4 passive, she will get the 2nd stack after using her burst, so you don't need to get 2 stacks before starting this combo. You also want to cancel her 4th normal attack with her hold elemental skill, then keep mashing the attack button for 4 more swings. And here is me doing the 14 stack combo on the Cryo Regisline. I have Fischl for Superconduct, Xinyan for extra physical damage, and Bennett for both his attack increase and pyro resonance. I was almost able to get 309k damage. This will only get stronger after I get her final ascension bonus and increase her talent level even more. If you don't like this 14 stack combo, then here are 4 other combos that can reach 13 stacks. The only one of these I don't like is the top right combo that requires you to use the elemental skill right after the burst. Since that does the hold version, you can't mash the elemental skill and can lose some time if you mess up. The other 3 combos can be mashed out, so it's quite easy to do. There are also more than just these 4 combos that can reach 13 hits. You pretty much just need to do 2 normal attack strings and add a hold elemental skill between them. Go ahead and try out different combos and use the one you enjoy the most. It's usually just a difference of 1 stack, so it's not gonna make or break her damage anyways. To ascend Eula, you need dandelion seeds, so here is a map I made showing all their locations. You can also check out my video to farm them, but they aren't really hiding in any weird spots like other materials, so I think this image is good enough. There are 53 seeds in total and you need 168 seeds to max her ascension. For her talents, both her normal attack and elemental bursts are equally important, so level those up first. Her elemental skill can be kept at level 6 until you get the other 2 abilities to level 9 or higher. I know leveling her E does increase the resistance shred, but the difference is only a couple percent, which is a lot less damage than what you gain from her normal attack and burst. Both her ascension passives help with her combo, but you don't really need to worry about it. They both function automatically. I also want to give recognition to her crafting passive. This is now the best passive when crafting talent books, dethroning Xingqiu at last. If you have both the Water Boy and Ice Queen, let Eula do the crafting. I'll quickly go over her constellations, since those are not common for a 5-star character. Her C1 gives her more physical damage after holding her elemental skill, which will last the whole duration for her burst window. It's a nice constellation to have, but the damage increase is actually less than 30% since you already have some physical damage bonus geared up. Her constellation 2 sounds nice on paper, but it only increases her DPS outside the burst window. You will not be holding her E more than once in that 7-second window since it's pretty useless when you don't have 2 stacks of Grimheart. C3 adds a very nice chunk of damage, more than the boost from her Constellation 1. C4 adds a nice little bonus to her damage, but is still weaker than her C1 and C3. Finally, her Constellation 6. This is her strongest constellation and can easily increase her burst damage by 50% without changing her playstyle. For her weapons, the best one, to nobody's surprise, is the Song of Broken Pines. This limited weapon is made just for her, similar to how the Staff of Homa was kitted for Wu Tao. This claymore has physical damage substat and increases her attack speed, therefore increasing the number of stacks during her burst window. The only problem is activating the passive too early and having it on cooldown during your burst, but that problem can be taken care of by managing your attacks properly. The next best weapon is the Unforge if you are able to keep up shields. Since she requires field time to do damage anyway, you can easily build up to max stacks and get that 80% attack bonus. The Wolf's Greystone is fairly close to the Unforge. It's actually better if you are not using a shield character. Next, we have the 4-star weapons. Both Serpent Spine and Blackcliff are very similar in damage with their max passive stacks, but I prefer the Serpent Spine because it's easier to get those stacks compared to Blackcliff. You also won't lose stacks of Serpent Spine buff as long as you have a shield active. I also put the Skyward Pride at a similar level, but with a caveat. Eula needs around 140% energy recharge with a Sacrificial Bow Diona acting as a battery to always have her burst ready. If you do not have this energy recharge, or if you are using a weaker battery, then the Skyward Sword goes up in priority. However, another counter to that is her burst uptime. Do you really need to have Eula's burst ready on cooldown, or do you only need to use it once per encounter and still be fine? Next up is the craftable Snow Tomb Silver Star. This is slightly better than the prototype Archaic, but use the one you have a higher refinement of. The difference is too small to make it worth crafting the other weapon from scratch. The Lithic Blade is a very strong weapon as long as you have 3 or more Li Yue characters, but that might be hard to get with Eula's team. She needs an electro character for Superconduct, and you should have a cryo battery for energy problems. And currently, there's no good cryo batteries that's from Li Yue. This makes it very hard to have 3 Li Yue characters with the current cast. The best 3-star claymore is the Skyrider Greatsword. both the substat and passive benefits Eula. It's even better than some of the other 4-star weapons like Sacrificial and Favonia's Greatsword. For her artifacts, 4-piece Pelflame is her best set. You will lose the 4-piece bonus after finishing her burst combo, but that's fine since you will use that time to swap out and use your other party members anyway. All the effective burst rotations will have the 4-piece Pelflame bonus active when her Lightfall sword explodes. Another very good set is 2-piece Pelflame with 2-piece Bloodstain. You will do a little less damage on her burst, but the overall damage is more consistent without needing to manage her elemental skill. Mixing one of the physical artifacts with the 2-piece Noblesse is another option if you are lacking physical artifacts with good substats. I will also add the 4-piece Gladiator and 4-piece Retracing Bolide as viable sets. These sets will give you more damage with her normal attacks, but you lose some from her nuke. Her stat priority is pretty much the same as any DPS. Get her main damage stat on the goblet, in this case it's physical damage, then try to get as much crit as you can, while aiming for the 1:2 ratio for crit rate to crit damage. An easy way to figure out which set is better is just multiply your crit rate with crit damage. The higher product will give you more damage. You also want to have enough energy recharge to maintain her burst uptime. She needs around 140% with a Diona battery, but play around with your team to see what feels comfortable. Eula does not need the popular Xingqiu or Bennett on her team, which frees them up for your other team in the Spiral Abyss. Her strong teams will include 1 or 2 electro units to create the Superconduct reaction to shred 40% physical resistance. Fischl and Beidou are good choices here. However, Beidou's burst costs 80 energy, so if you are running her, you will also need to have another electro on the team as well. Eula tends to have energy problems herself, so you want a cryo battery. Diona is the best option here with the Sacrificial Bow. You can also run Kaya or Rosaria. I would not recommend Chongyun since he will change Eula's attack into cryo and you'll lose the benefits of all the physical bonus damage. If you still have a character slot remaining, then you can add a healer or shielder. Shields are good if you are using the Unforged or the Serpent Spine weapons. And that's my guide on Eula. We covered the important parts about optimizing her burst as well as her weapon and artifact selections. As always, thanks for watching my videos. Subscribe and smash that like button, and most importantly, have fun out there, traveler.